All right. So I have it all written down, but I'm probably like, if I read all my notes, then we'll be here all night. So I won't do that to you guys. So my name's Lauren Blackledge, and I live in Charleston, West Virginia. So that's where the accent is. Um, and I actually, well, I'll kind of, before I get to my beach body, I am a mom of a 7-year-old who I was blessed to adopt from his birth. Fun fact is he was born on my birthday, which is one of my favorite things in the world. I am a police wife who has now been married 10 years. And next month, we've been together 15 years. So I informed him it's about time to trade him in. And, and health and fitness has never been a part of my past. I am a veteran teacher. I taught elementary school for 10 years, have my master's degree, and this fall stepped away from teaching. I used to have a side part-time photography gig to help supplement my teaching income, which I only learned how to do through YouTube. And so that kind of brings me into my history. But you might be wondering how in the world Beachbody became part of my life. So as I said, I adopted my son from birth. And the moment he was born, my world became him. And so he's 7 years old, but his entire 5 years of his life was simply me pouring into him constantly. Everything was all about him. And so at one point in time, we had traveled to Seattle for me to be in my best friend's wedding. And, you know, what comes with weddings is pictures. And my friend plastered all of the wedding pictures all over Facebook, and I immediately did not recognize the woman that I was seeing that was standing on that church pew. I was at a weight that I had never really visualized or understood. I knew I'd gained weight over the years, but I had always kind of been the girl that could just eat whatever I wanted. And when weight would come on, I just kind of attributed it to, oh, I'm getting older. I had just reached, I had hit 30. And so, you know, I just kind of plugged that along with it. Well, this is what happens. I'm a mom. I'm busy. I don't have time to take care of myself. I'm teaching, you know, all the excuses we love to play. And I was one day scrolling, and one of my friends had put up this post about how she'd lost 7 pounds, and she was going to host a group. And I had no clue what it was, but I was in this point. I had just come back from this wedding. I was miserable. And I thought, okay, I'll do this. And so I actually ended up being her very first challenger. And I dove into her group, had no clue. I didn't even question it. She just said, here's your challenge pack. This is what you need to order. And I instantly grabbed my card and I put it in. And it was when Beachbody didn't have on demand. So I bought a Country Heat challenge pack. I got my DVD in the mail, and I went all in, line dancing in my living room. And so what changed for me was I started this challenge group. And what you're going to hear from my story is I have done a complete wave through every avenue that Beachbody can offer. So I started off as a challenger, and I fell so in love with my challenge group, with my friends who were doing this workout with me. And I loved being able to check in and have this joy to take care of ourselves. And so after the first month, my coach, who is a dear friend, said, hey, have you ever thought about coaching? And I laughed at her and said, you are crazy. And I said, let me at least do another month of your challenge group. And I remember in my head thinking, oh my gosh, she's going to keep asking me. Like, she's not going to leave me alone. She's going to keep asking me. I just knew it. And I remember thinking, like, this is going to ruin my challenge groups. Like, I love my challenge groups. Please don't ask me to be a coach. And so I did another group, and just as in love with the first time. And she asked me again, like I knew she would. And she brought me into a coach sneak peek. And I remember her presenting the 3 avenues of coaching: the discount coach, the hobby coach, and the business builder. And I remember thinking, okay, she's not going to leave me alone, I'll give in because I love everything about this. I am not going to stop my challenge groups. I am not going to stop drinking my Shakeology. I am going to keep doing these workouts because they're working for me. And what was happening through this whole time was I was getting fitter and I was starting to lose weight. And at this point in time, I've lost 45 pounds on my journey and feel amazing about myself. So all these little things were just trickling and coming to a whole. And I caved and I said, sign me up for a discount, coach, but don't think I'm going to help anybody. And so naturally, what we do as, human beings in society now, we find something we love, and what do? We put it on social media. I love my kid. He's plastered on social media. I love my dogs. They're plastered on social media. So what was happening naturally, even though I was staying so resistant to what coaching was, I was posting it on social media. I started sharing my workouts. And for the longest time, I never even shared a side by side. I was just sharing the joy and happiness that I was feeling in my life. And so what happened was people started asking me, and I remember I helped my first person. And I remember telling my coach, like, hey, I've got someone, she wants to do this group with us. What do I do? And so she guided me through. And at that point in time, I started to create, I was like, okay, maybe I'll just be a hobby coach. Like I'll just start and I can cover extra, expenses, and I'll just do this because I love it so much. And I continued that. And that was when I then earned my free ticket to Summit. I got the email that I was Success Starter. And so I just kept doing the things that I was loving. And that was sharing with others how this was making my life better and how it was making me be better in the avenues that kind of always brought stress and brought the unhealthy parts of my life. Teaching brought stress. It brought unhealth. I was bringing home the stress of the job. Then coming home, I had, my son, and then obviously my husband, who sometimes gets pushed to the back burner, but you still have to take care of them too. And so I just continued sharing this love, and other people were feeling my vibe. And so that's kind of what brought me in. And so I was really just naturally coasting as being a hobby coach, and I was content with it. I was meeting Success Club, and I was making, an extra $100 a month, and I was content with it. Was never going to complain about the t-shirts that came along with Success Club because I'm very much a Ruby. And so that was just kind of what happened. And I remember it was last December, I received an email from Beachbody that said I'd earned the Success Club trip. And I was flabbergasted. I was completely shocked that I had been coasting and Beachbody was still providing these little perks in my life. And I remember telling my husband, Zane, that I was like, this might really be something. And I told him, because at that point in time I was an Emerald coach, and I said, I can't go to Mexico and be an Emerald coach. I have to be a Diamond. Like I have to go to Mexico with something to show for. I can't be an Emerald coach. I have to push myself. And so I made my deadline. I made my deadline. I had to be Diamond before I boarded that plane. And sure enough, the week before, I hit Diamond. And I remember it was probably a week after I got the invite to the Success Club trip that I reached out to Megan. And because at this point in time, and I probably should have clarified this, my upline has, my coach that I joined very closely to me. And so we have found different paths in coaching. And so in the sense of an upline, I see everyone popping on this call, and I see all these amazing, people that have created, that are part of this team. And that's something that I kind of haven't had, but I thrive on that. And so at this point, when I made this decision that I was going to push for Diamond, I knew how much of a community girl I am and how much of a team girl I am. And I knew I wasn't going to get it within that avenue. And so I reached out to Megan because I knew she had this amazing team. And I said, can I just kind of feel your fire? Like I need fire, but I don't need, I don't need guidance, or I don't need babysitting essentially, but I need fire. I need to feel passionate women, and I need it to push me. And I remember her saying, yeah, who's pushing you to diamond? I was like, me. I just am getting there. I'm trying to get there. And she's like, okay, come on. And she brought me into this amazing community. So I do say, yes, I'm like a sister coach. We kind of are all part of the same organization way high up. But essentially, yes, I'm not part of the team, but I have been adopted and proud of it. And so what happened was, in this whole crazy scattered brained mess that I've just dumped on you, from going to, a girl who was resistant to be a discount coach, to a girl who embraced a hobby coach, to someone who said, whoa, what can this do for my life? How am I going to make this, what do I want this to bring for my future? And what happened in that span from December to April. So December was when I received the invite to Mexico, and April was the trip, and I was pushing for diamond. And in between, in February, the state of West Virginia did an entire work stoppage. I don't know why that's making me emotional, but the entire state of West Virginia went on strike for teachers. And so my job was halted in like a very scary moment. Sorry. But I remember thinking, I have this backup. I have Beachbody to push me. I love Beachbody. It's making me a better person, and it's there for me when the job I thought I could count on was starting to crumble. And so what happened was, in February after the strike, I lost like a lot of faith in the teaching system. And I knew that the person I could count on was myself. And so I pushed it. And then when my job of teaching started to be an inconsistent job, I knew that I could always count on myself. And I started to look into the avenues of what Beachbody could do for me on a business level, which was so different from the person that I started this with. I started this as a challenger who was looking to fit in a pair of jeans. And now I was looking at it to, how can I support my family if I maybe have to go a month without pay? And as I stand for the teachers that are representing my state. And the strike ended, and we went to Mexico like 2 weeks after. It was like shortly after the strike. And I was like, guys, I'm leaving. And I took my family to Mexico, and I was submerged in this community of amazing women and families and kids. And there were people just like me. And I remember my husband looking at me, and he was like, wow, like this is something we've had taste and bits of, but we didn't know how big it could be. And it's not like I have anything big yet, but the opportunity and knowing that it could be something that I could work on and that I could do, and that by showing up every single day and falling in love with this was something that was starting to bring me joy. There were days when I remember I went back to school and I was with my students, and I'd get a message from a woman asking me, which workout should I do? Or how should I do this to feel, I'm feeling I'm having a tough day. And I taught at a school where I didn't have cell phone service, #West Virginia cell phone service. But I taught at a school where I didn't have cell phone service. And I remember it would pop up because I'd get a random bar here and there. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, I want to hurry home, and I want to be able to help them. I want to be able to do Beachbody. And I texted Megan one day, because Megan's kind of my person that I'm like, okay, wait, am I an idiot for doing this? What am I doing? And I said, how did you know that you wanted to step away and just do Beachbody? And she said, when I couldn't stop thinking about it. And I was like, crap, like I'm going to have to do something. And I told Zane, I said, what are our options? What can we do? And we decided to go all in. And my goal was to make and match my West Virginia teaching salary. And so for those last couple months, I pushed it. And I've never been one of the coaches that just kind of I've had to work for every single thing. I've had to push in those invites. I've had to make people decide that they wanted to watch me, and really push to build what I have. And so I went all in, and I loved every single second of it. And I set goals for myself, and I did it. And so I left teaching, and it was the scariest decision that I ever made, but it has been the most amazing decision that I've ever made for my life, for my stress levels, and for my family. And what I discovered over time was Beachbody was always this like thing on my shoulder, but what it's done for me is it has saved me essentially in every single aspect of my life. It saved me on my health. It saved me when I didn't have belief in myself. And it saved me when I started to have this burnout and, I don't want to say, because I love teaching, but when I left teaching, I didn't love teaching as much as I did when I started. And so I still love teaching, but now I love teaching women how to take care of themselves. And that is where I've kind of taken this huge 180 in my life. And it upset a lot of people, and I had to kind of really come to terms with that. But it has been a decision that I have been so grateful for every single day. And I am much more eager to jump out of bed and to make sure I send out my invites and make sure that I have a certain amount of paycheck each week, because I totally did a whirlwind for my family. But it is a job that I enjoy doing so much, and I never have to do a dreaded drive, or I never have to pray for a snow day, or I never have to hope that my school's power goes out so I can go home early. But this job is something I enjoy doing every single day because it is me. And I always say I bleed Beachbody blue. I think I heard those words from Body Angle one time. I was like, that's me. But I am one of those girls, if it was acceptable, I would be kissing my Shakeology bottle every day on a selfie, because that's how much I believe in Beachbody. I don't do it because it will turn people off and it turn them away. But I love it that much that I would do it. So that is kind of my story. I do have a couple little tips. I don't want anyone to ever think that I have this huge income. Like, I bust my butt every week to make sure that my income matches my teaching income, so that my family and I never have to, go without. My goals are big, and I push for those goals, but I have some things that I've kind of changed my mindset with once I started pushing. And I will tell you, every single thing that I use has come from another coach that I've learned from. And that is one thing I have been from day one, is coachable. I don't compare, and I have my little guidelines. I know a lot of people say don't stay in your lane, but I am a learner and I need examples. And so I am the one that I know all the big names, and I know all the coaches. I know because I have learned from them, because I didn't have that top line above me to give me the knowledge that I needed. So here are my little guidelines for the coaches that I have learned from. One, I've learned from the coaches in the community through YouTube, the Beachbody Champions page, and then Megan. Megan's taught me so much and given me so many resources through her team page here. But there are some certain things I have to do to kind of keep myself in my lane. I only follow or listen to trainings that give me inspiration to be a better me. And I only follow trainings or coaches that allow me to have takeaways that I can implement immediately. I've found that, and my two things that I don't do is if I ever find that I'm comparing myself or kind of doing that girl envy, we've all had that, like the people where you're like, oh, I'm just never going to be like them. I remove that. And I find coaches that I don't have that I have the coaches that I can relate to, that I know that I'm learning something from. Um, and I don't watch trainings that don't align with the goals that I have set for future. So there was an area in my business when I was really learning how to build a diamond. So I was watching all those trainings. This summer, an area for me was I needed to learn about income. As I said, matching my teaching salary was something important. So I submerged myself this summer in learning about how team cycles work and how my income can grow. And so I've always kind of kept in the forefront. I know it's really tempting to watch a lot of stuff and not do the things we learn. We can go on YouTube and we can get lost in that rabbit hole, but I limit it to what can I do right now? How can I change my business right now to make it better without making it harder? So those are like my 4 guidelines for like resources and learning from coaches, and just a couple of little tricks that I have been implementing lately. So one of them is from your coach, Megan, your upline. Megan started posting the marketing calendars a couple, maybe 6 or so months ago. And every month she always set her Success Club 5 goal for the first week. And that right there was a game changer for me. When I started making Success Club 5 my goal for the first Friday of every single month, everything changed. Because one, I didn't have that anxiety of, oh my gosh, it's the 30th, I haven't met Success Club 5. And then you get all that anxiety, and then coaching becomes no fun. Because then you're chasing this goal and you're stressing yourself out. So for me, I have that little anxiety and that little fun of push at the beginning of the month when I know that the only person I'm fighting or, against is myself in my own little game, versus Beachbody's game of, oh crap, now I'm not going to get whatever Success Club was, or now I'm going to lose whatever, I'm shooting for, whether it's All-Star or Legend. The next thing that has really helped me, and I can kind of show you real fast. So one thing I've found is I learn things from coaches, but then I learn how to use it within my own creativity that makes it easier for me. So a national wake-up call a couple months ago was Danielle Natoni, and she shared about how her conversations went with talking to new challengers, and how she said, like, what flavor do you like? Do you like this or this? And do you like beach bars? And would you like an Energize? And she scaled it down in these questions that she was asking people. Well, for me, I'm not a wordy person because, well, I am a wordy person, but I get too rambly and I get too much where, like the word vomit we call. So what I did was I took Danielle Natoni's ideas and I turned them into a Google form. And it, I think for me, has allowed me to give follow-ups and my conversations a nice closer. So I'm going to show this to you really fast. Let me see where I put it. Oh, excuse my desktop. Okay, here it is. Okay, so I basically took everything that she said, Danielle Natoni said, like all the questions that she asked. And when I'm having a conversation, my conversations start off with, what are your goals? And then I always respond with, what are your biggest struggles? And then once we get to that point, that kind of dead zone of the conversation of how, would you like to start my group? I always say, is it okay if I send you a form that'll allow me to set you up for our group the best way possible? And so I email them this short link, like the Google form, you can make it a short link. And so it's just the basics, basically a recap of what we've talked about. But then when I get down here, it gives them their options. And so it gives them the pre-workout, the post-work, superfoods. It lets them see the flavors. And then they pick it. It's a drop-down box. And then I even tell them, vegan for sensitivities. So if you think about the back and forth of these conversations, when you're asking someone, which flavor would you like? Do you want the bars? Like, it can kind of be, it can be a little bit stressful when you're waiting for the response always. And so then I even ask, if they do the post-workout, do they want the chocolate or orange? And then I even drop in the beach bars. And these guys were just screenshots from the shop from Team Beachbody. And then I ask about the coaching and if they have any questions. And so what this does then is gives me the responses of the people that I'm working with or talking to, and I go straight to share cart and I already have their order ready. And so that's been one thing that's really helped me kind of make that share cart process so much easier. And then I have 2 platforms of follow-ups, because where it keeps track of who I've sent this link to and who's filled it out. Well, if they have filled it out, I can see they filled it out. And if they haven't done the share cart, I can see that. So I have that 2 form of follow-up, and it allows me to really cut down the conversation of how I'm going to fill out their share cart with, here's how you're going to do your share. I almost let them do their share cart for them, but then I do the behind the scenes with the invoice. And it has made that completion process a lot easier for me in these past, started this summer after Danielle Natoni's wake up call, and it was golden. Let me see. What else did I have? Oh, one thing, and I'll try to wrap this up really fast. One thing Megan did ask me to share about quickly, and then, like I said, everything I've learned and do are things I've learned from other coaches. So Megan asked me how I share my, so I share a lot about my adoption with Xavier a lot. And then I share, the key things that, my infertility that got me, that led us to adoption. And Megan asked the other day how I share my stories very briefly, kind of the short and sweet aspects. And I actually learned this from Amy Rada, which I know you guys had on team call a couple months ago. So she said at one point in time in one training that she types out her whole story, and then in her posts, she uses snippets of it. So for me, I could talk to you for days about my story of adoption, from the time that I met Xavier's birth mother till, the day that he was born. I could go on forever. But what I've done is I type up snippets of those. So I'll type up our big long story, and then I will use snippets of it. So one just recently for Xavier's birthday, I used a snippet of the moment when I found out that he was going to be born. And so to kind of combine it, even Emily Favre, I think, was the next trainer that I had learned from. She said she really signifies the actual moments, the visuals that were in the room, or, whatever experience that you're sharing, really kind of create that visual to allow someone to feel your story. And I feel like my adoption story with Xavier is one that I know how to hit people in the feels with it. And so it's an emotional topic anyways. And so when I use my visuals of the things that brought that to life, it makes the story that much more. So I've kind of taken Amy Rada's advice and Emily Favre's and kind of mashed it together. The next thing with my vulnerabilities, I only share stories that I've kind of been able to wrap my head around. I just recently, yesterday, shared a story about me telling my boss that I was leaving teaching. And that was one I just now kind of was mentally ready to share. Obviously that happened in May, and it was an emotional time, but I was just now at this point where I was kind of ready to kind of give that vulnerability. So I think sometimes when we're putting ourselves out there, make sure it's something that we can wrap our heads around and that we've kind of come to, like, we've processed it. So that's my dump one, you guys. But that's kind of how I do things. So sorry.
That was a pretty good dump. Sorry, I had to say it.
No, it's good. I like a good dump every now and then.
That was so awesome. I feel like, sorry, I missed what you said. I think there was a question.
Okay.
Do you do this when they say they want to join? And that was, I think, referring to the form. So at what point exactly do you kind of send the form?
So when I start to send the form, is usually my flow is, what are your goals you would like to reach? And then my response is always, oh my gosh, it's usually a relatable, yes, you could totally rock those goals out with me. And then I'll connect it with someone else that's in my group. You would love this group. I always kind of come back to the group. And then I'll ask what their struggles were. And and then once they tell me their struggles, it's usually always the same: time, kids, food, things like that. And then I'll say, I think my accountability group would be something that you would really enjoy. do you agree? Or would you enjoy that too? And they usually say, yes, it sounds great. Or yeah, I think so. And I'll say, would it be okay if I send you a quick form that would allow me to get you set better if you would decide to join? And so then they always say sure, because I stress that it's a Google form, because I don't want them to ever think that it's like a cheesy link that's going to like stray them. I always say it's a quick Google form I made. It allows that trust factor to know that it's just Google. So that's one thing too. And then after that, and then usually right after that, I get their cart ready for them.
Yeah.
Because by then, once they've filled it out, I think filling the form out, it almost gives them that commitment, almost like that contract a little bit, because they are excited then after that. And I'm not saying all of them end up finalizing, but so it does something with the mindset.
Do you allow the form to tell them the price then, essentially?
Yeah. Because the form, it has it listed.
I saw that.
So they know they have options. And like kids love choice. People love choices. And so if they see there's a $230 choice, by clicking the $160 choice, they're like, oh, okay, I'm going to get the cheaper choice. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of, I think it's been helpful that they do get to see the choices.
Yeah, Elena asked if you'd share your form, maybe like take some screenshots of it. I know I wouldn't want.
You guys can actually go to it. I have it right in my link tree.
Okay.
If you go on my Instagram, it's Lesson Plans to Lunges. If you go to the link tree, it's in there as my food and fit or fall, under my fall one. And that's the exact same one that I send to the people I'm talking to, because most of those women aren't going to my link tree anyways. So
did I type that right?
It's the number 2.
Oh, 2. Okay. You got it.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought I had another question. So I love what you said about telling story and things like that. It was a major piece of leadership this past weekend. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to be hitting on telling story and stuff here in a couple of weeks, because our team has a lot of work to do. Primarily because their leader has a lot of work to do with telling story. So it's something that we're all going to be working on a lot in the next couple of weeks. So I'm super excited about, I love the idea of writing it out, just type it out. And that's therapeutic. Like, let's be real.
It is too.
Our stories.
Right. And for a time saver, another thing, I didn't mean to say this. I type mine out in my email and I email it to myself. And so I'm terrible at typing on my phone. So for me to sit down and type it, and then I save it, and I just flag it, and I like on my email, when I email it to myself, I call it post. And then I, like, for Xavier's, it was happy birthday, Xavier. And so like I email my posts to myself. And so that's been something that I kind of have a little library of, and they're saved, and it's easier for me to type them. It's not as time consuming.
Yeah. For the unorganized person, that sounds like a great tip. I love that. Okay, do you guys have any questions for Lauren that you were wanting to ask? Loved the not comparing yourself, and you remove them if you find yourself comparing to them. There's been many times that I've had to compare people to at certain times in my business. Okay, your daily must-dos.
Are you ready? I follow your checklist. I print it off every week. Yeah. So
Lauren is like my dream coach.
Yeah.
She does everything I tell her to do.
I do. Yeah. Like, yeah. So I followed the list. I think it's the one you posted with the colorfuls. Coachable.
Awesome.
Yeah. That's all I do. And I just do that checklist.
I love it.
Yeah.
All right. I forgot that I signed up under my name, so we're about to be kicked off.
All right.
Cool. Yeah, for sure. It was definitely awesome. Well, Lauren, we appreciate you so much. Thank you for being on. I'll post the recording tomorrow. But this was awesome. And for sharing your heart and your story with us. That's always my favorite part, to be honest with you.
Thank
All
you.
right. See you guys. Have a good
Bye.
night.